Good morning, Virgo. There are glances that arrive like unexpected weather. You may have caught one recently across a room, through a window, over the rim of a coffee cup. A glance that lasted a breath longer than necessary, long enough to notice, not long enough to interpret. And in that small space, something passed between you, something unnamed, something that neither of you reached for, but neither of you looked away from. This is how certain doors begin to open, not with force, not with declaration, but with a single moment of stillness where two people acknowledge without words that something exists between them. A thread, a current, a quiet understanding that the other person feels it too. There is a particular energy that some people may be noticing now. An energy that feels like waiting, but not the waiting of patience, not the waiting of resignation, a different kind of waiting. The kind that happens when you know something is coming, but you don't know when it will step into the light. You may have felt this around someone specific, someone whose name appears in your thoughts without invitation, someone whose absence feels strangely present, someone who, when they are near, makes the air feel different, thicker, quieter, more alive, and yet they say nothing. They play it cool. They move through their days as if nothing has shifted. They offer small glances, small smiles, small moments of attention that could be interpreted as nothing or could be interpreted as everything. And you find yourself caught in the space between, unsure whether to read the signs or dismiss them as imagination. There is a pattern that sometimes emerges when two people are circling each other, a pattern of approach and retreat, of closeness followed by distance, of moments that feel charged with meaning, followed by silence that feels hollow. It can be confusing. It can be exhausting. But it is also, in its own strange way, a kind of dance, a dance that happens when feelings are real but timing is not yet right. When both people sense the same current, but neither knows how to name it. When fear and hope hold hands in the dark, each pulling in a different direction. Some people may recognize this dance in their own lives right now. The person who lingers just long enough to matter. The person whose texts arrive at exactly the right moment, then stop for days. The person who looks at you in a way that feels private, even when others are present. And you wonder, is this real? Am I imagining? Do they feel what I feel? There are questions that cannot be answered by asking. They can only be answered by waiting, by watching, by feeling your way through the dark until your hands find something solid. And sometimes what they find is this: the other person is afraid too. Playing it cool is rarely a sign of not caring. More often, it is a sign of caring so much that exposure feels terrifying. Caring so much that any wrong move could shatter something fragile. Caring so much that silence feels safer than risk. There is a particular kind of courage that some people may be called to now. Not the courage to confess, not the courage to declare, but the courage to remain present in the uncertainty, to stay open without demanding resolution, to let something grow at its own pace in its own time without forcing it into the light before it is ready. You may have noticed that the most significant connections rarely arrive with fanfare. They arrive quietly, they arrive sideways, they arrive in moments you almost miss, disguised as ordinary. A shared joke, a moment of eye contact across a crowded room, a conversation that stretches late into the night without either of you noticing the time. These are the threads from which something lasting is woven. Not grand gestures, not dramatic declarations, but small moments of recognition repeated over time until one day you realize that this person has become part of the fabric of your life. Some people may be approaching such a realization now. Not a conclusion, not a certainty, but a growing awareness that something significant is taking shape, that the glances, the silences, the small moments of attention are accumulating into something that cannot be dismissed. There is a theme appearing here for those who are paying attention, a theme of patience, a theme of trust, a theme of allowing things to unfold without demanding to know the ending before the story has been written. Because the truth is that some connections are not meant to be rushed. They are meant to be nurtured, meant to be protected, meant to be given the space to grow roots deep enough to withstand whatever may come. The person who plays it cool may be playing it cool for reasons you cannot see. Perhaps they have been hurt before. Perhaps they carry fears they have never spoken aloud. Perhaps they are waiting for a sign from you, just as you are waiting for a sign from them. Two people standing on opposite sides of a door, each waiting for the other to knock. There is a particular tenderness in this kind of waiting. A tenderness that comes from recognizing that what is growing between you is fragile and precious and worth protecting. A tenderness that says, I will not rush this. I will not force this. I will let this become what it is meant to become. And sometimes what it is meant to become is something permanent. You may have sensed this possibility in quiet moments. When you imagine your future, this person is there. When you think of home, this person is part of it. When you picture yourself years from now, looking back on your life, this person is woven into the memories, not as a certainty, not as a guarantee, but as a quiet knowing that some people are meant to stay. There is an energy present for some people now, an energy of convergence, of paths beginning to align, of two separate stories slowly becoming one narrative. It may not look dramatic from the outside. It may not announce itself with fireworks or grand gestures, but beneath the surface, something is shifting. The person who seems distant may actually be drawing closer. The person who plays it cool may be secretly counting the moments until they see you again. The person who says little may be feeling everything. This is a pattern that sometimes appears when something real is taking root. The surface remains calm while the depths stir. The outside remains composed while the inside trembles. And two people move through their days, each carrying the other in a private place, each waiting for the right moment to let the other know. You may have wondered whether you should speak, whether you should break the silence, whether you should take the risk of naming what you feel, and perhaps you will. Perhaps the moment is approaching when words become necessary. But before that moment arrives, there is value in simply sitting with what is, in feeling the weight of it, in honoring the tenderness of it, in recognizing that what you feel is real, whether or not it is spoken, whether or not it is returned in exactly the way you hope. Because the truth is that feelings do not require resolution to be meaningful. They are meaningful in themselves. They are evidence of your capacity to connect, to care, to open yourself to another person. And that capacity is something to honor, regardless of outcome. Some people may be noticing that their thoughts keep returning to one person, not obsessively, not desperately, but gently, persistently, like a melody that plays softly in the background of their mind. And when they see this person, something settles inside them. Something that was restless becomes still. This is worth paying attention to. Not because it guarantees a future, not because it predicts an outcome, but because it reveals something about what matters to you, about what your heart is drawn toward, about the kind of connection your soul is seeking. There is a particular quality to connections that are meant to last. They do not demand that you become someone else. They do not require performance or pretense. They simply ask that you show up as you are again and again and trust that this is enough. And in the presence of the right person, this feels not like vulnerability, but like home. You may have felt this with someone, a sense of coming home to yourself when you are with them, a sense of being seen, truly seen, in a way that feels both exposing and liberating. A sense that you could tell them anything, show them anything, and they would not turn away. This is rare. This is precious. This is the kind of connection that people spend lifetimes searching for. And if you have found it, even in its early, uncertain stages, you have found something worth protecting. The person who plays it cool may feel this too. They may feel the same sense of recognition, the same sense of coming home, but they may be carrying fears you cannot see, wounds you cannot know, hesitations that have nothing to do with you and everything to do with their own history. There is a reflection worth considering here, not about whether this person will eventually speak, not about whether feelings will eventually be declared, but about what it means to hold space for someone's process, to allow them the time they need to arrive at their own readiness, to trust that what is real will not disappear simply because it is not immediately claimed. Some people may be called to this kind of trust now. Trust in the timing of things. Trust in the resilience of genuine connection. Trust that if this is meant to become something permanent, it will survive the waiting. It will survive the silence. It will survive the uncertainty. Because marriage, real marriage, is not built on perfect timing or dramatic declarations. It is built on something deeper, something quieter. It is built on two people who choose each other again and again through uncertainty and silence and fear until one day they realize they have been choosing each other all along. You may have imagined what it would be like to marry this person. Not in a fantasy sense, not in a desperate sense, but in a quiet, wondering sense. What would it feel like to wake beside them every morning? What would it feel like to build a life with them? What would it feel like to grow old in their presence? These imaginings are not predictions. They are not guarantees. They are simply glimpses of what your heart is oriented toward. And they are worth honoring whether or not they come to pass. Because the capacity to imagine a future with someone is itself a form of love, a form of hope, a form of openness to what might be. And that openness, that willingness to dream, is what allows real connection to take root and grow. There is a theme emerging here for those who are paying attention. A theme of patience and presence. A theme of trusting what you feel without demanding that the world confirm it. A theme of allowing something to unfold without forcing it to reveal itself before it is ready. The person who plays it cool may be playing it cool for reasons that have nothing to do with you. They may be protecting themselves. They may be waiting for the right moment. They may be as uncertain as you are, as afraid as you are, as full of hope and fear as you are. And in this, you are not separate. You are the same. Two people standing on opposite sides of a door, each waiting for the other to knock, is less than Hayes Hone. 5# is greater than, each hoping the other will knock first. Each afraid to knock and find no one there. But here is what some people may be beginning to realize. The door is not locked. It never was. It only seemed locked because neither of you had tried the handle. And the moment one of you reaches out, the moment one of you takes the risk, the door will open. Not because of magic, not because of fate, but because it was never really closed. You may be closer to that moment than you realize. Closer to the conversation that changes everything. Closer to the admission that breaks the silence. Closer to the recognition that what you have been feeling, what you have been hoping, what you have been imagining is mutual. There is a particular kind of beauty in this moment. The moment before something begins, the moment when everything is possible and nothing is yet determined. The moment when two people stand on the threshold of something permanent, aware of what could be, but not yet certain of what will be. This moment is precious. Do not rush through it. Do not wish it away. Let it be what it is. Let it teach you what it has to teach. Let it prepare you for what comes next. Because what comes next, for some people, may be the beginning of something that lasts. Not because the stars have aligned, not because fate has decreed it, but because two people, in all their uncertainty and fear and hope, chose to reach for each other, chose to trust what they felt, chose to believe that the door was not locked. You may be one of those people. You may be standing at your own threshold right now, unsure whether to knock, unsure whether anyone is listening on the other side. And perhaps this is the moment to remind you of something you already know but have forgotten. You are not alone in your waiting. The person on the other side of the door is waiting too. They are wondering about you. They are hoping about you. They are imagining a future with you, even as they play it cool, even as they pretend not to care. Some people may be noticing that the waiting is becoming harder, that the silence is becoming heavier, that the small glances and brief moments are no longer enough. And this is not a bad sign. This is a sign that something is ready to move, ready to shift, ready to become what it has been preparing to become. The question is not whether the feelings are mutual. The question is whether you are both ready to let them be known. And perhaps the answer to that question is approaching. Perhaps the moment when the door opens is closer than you think. Perhaps the next glance will last a breath longer. Perhaps the next silence will be broken by words that have been waiting to be spoken. There is a reflection worth carrying with you as you move through your days. A reflection about what it means to trust what you feel is less than #0. 5 hash is greater than to honor what is growing between you and another person. To believe that what is real will not disappear simply because it has not yet been named. The person you are waiting for may be waiting for you. The person you are hoping for may be hoping for you. The person you are imagining a future with may be imagining a future with you. And one day, perhaps soon, you will both stop waiting. One day, perhaps soon, you will both stop playing it cool. One day, perhaps soon, you will both reach for the door at the same time and find that it was never really closed. Some people may be closer to that day than they realize. Closer to the beginning of something that will last. Closer to the kind of connection that people write stories about. Closer to a love that has been quietly growing in the space between two people who were afraid to speak. And when it finally speaks, it will not be because of magic or fate or destiny. It will be because two people, in their own time, in their own way, chose to trust what they felt, chose to believe that the door was not locked, chose to reach for each other across the silence. You may be one of those people. You may be standing at your own threshold right now, heart full of hope and fear, wondering whether to knock. And perhaps this is the moment to remind you that you do not have to knock loudly. You do not have to declare yourself with force. You only have to reach out gently and see if someone reaches back. Because love, real love, does not demand grand gestures. It only asks for small moments of courage, repeated over time, a glance held a moment longer, a question asked, a truth spoken quietly in a moment when it feels safe enough to speak. The person on the other side of the door may be waiting for exactly that, a small moment of courage from you, a sign that you feel what they feel, a reason to believe that they are not alone in their hoping. And when that moment comes, when courage meets courage, when hope recognizes hope, something shifts. Something becomes possible that was not possible before. Something begins that cannot be undone. Some people may be approaching such a moment now, not because the universe has aligned, not because fate has intervened, but because the waiting has done its work, because the silence has prepared them, because what has been growing between them is finally ready to be seen. And what they will see when they finally look is that they have been moving toward each other all along. Through the uncertainty, through the fear, through the playing it cool. Two hearts finding their way home. You may be closer to that home than you realize. Closer to the person who has been waiting for you, closer to the love that has been growing in the quiet spaces between you, closer to the moment when everything becomes clear. And when that moment comes, you will know is less than has hone. 5 hash is greater than, not because someone told you, not because the signs were obvious, but because you will feel it in your bones. You will feel that this is where you belong. This is who you are meant to be with. This is the person you have been waiting for, even when you didn't know you were waiting. Some people may be feeling that now. A quiet knowing, a deep sense that something significant is approaching. Not certainty, not guarantee, but a feeling, soft and persistent, that the waiting will not last forever. And perhaps it won't. Perhaps the door is already opening. Perhaps the silence is already breaking. Perhaps the person on the other side is already reaching for you just as you are reaching for them. This is the moment before, the moment when everything is possible and nothing is yet determined. The moment when hope and fear stand side by side, waiting to see which one will step forward first. The moment when two people, separate and uncertain, are about to become something more. Treasure this moment. It will not come again. And what comes next, whatever it is, will be built on the foundation of this waiting, this hoping, this quiet courage that has brought you here. You may be marrying this person, not because the future is certain, not because the outcome is guaranteed, but because some connections are simply too real to remain unrealized, too deep to remain unspoken, too true to remain hidden forever. And when the truth finally speaks, when the door finally opens, when the waiting finally ends, you will look at each other and wonder why you waited so long. You will wonder why you were ever afraid. You will wonder how you could have doubted what was always, quietly, undeniably real. Some people may be approaching that moment now, approaching the beginning of something that will last, approaching the love they have been waiting for, approaching the person who has been waiting for them. And when they arrive, when they finally stand together on the same side of the door, they will understand. They will understand that the waiting was not empty. The silence was not wasted. The playing it cool was not rejection. It was protection. It was preparation. It was the slow, careful unfolding of something that was always meant to bloom. You may be one of those people. You may be closer than you think to the moment when everything changes, closer than you think to the person who has been quietly loving you from across the silence, closer than you think to the life you have been imagining. And when that moment comes, you will be ready. Because the waiting has prepared you, because the silence has strengthened you, because the uncertainty has taught you what matters most. The person who plays it cool but feels it all, they are waiting for you. They are hoping for you. They are imagining a future with you, even as they pretend not to care. And one day, perhaps soon, the pretending will stop. One day, perhaps soon, the truth will speak. One day, perhaps soon, you will find each other on the same side of the door. Until then, carry this with you. What is real does not need to be forced. What is true does not need to be proven. What is meant to last will survive the waiting, the silence, the uncertainty. And when the time is right, when both of you are ready, it will step into the light. It will become what it was always becoming. It will be what it was always meant to be. A love that was quiet becoming loud. A door that was closed becoming open. Two people who were separate becoming one. This is what some people may be moving toward now. This is what some people may be ready to receive. This is what some people may be on the verge of realizing, and perhaps you are one of them. Perhaps you are closer than you think. Perhaps the waiting is almost over. Perhaps the person you have been hoping for has been hoping for you all along. The door is there. It has always been there, waiting for you to reach for it, waiting for you to believe that it was never really locked. And on the other side, someone is waiting for you too.